Hey, Hotep, you guys. Man, did y'all see that video that Shakka almost made? Talking about that the Kemetic community is dead. He went at a lot of people. But the the individual that got the most heat was the brother Jabari, the high priest, co-high priest of the shrine of Mayat. Now, this is interesting, family, because Shakka is now coming out saying that basically with respect to Jabari ain't no high priest, he faking and fronting. And he's saying that the religion of ancient Egypt is business. That's the official religion. All of this other stuff that they doing is made up. And hey, listen, all religion is man-made. Okay, all religion is man-made. So what Shakka is pointing out is like a twofold thing. He's saying that the religion in ancient Egypt is made up, and he's also saying that what people like Jabari is doing today is made up. But he's not saying that what people like Jabari is doing is made up, and it's the same made-up religion that they practiced in ancient Egypt and ancient Kemet. He's saying that it's something totally new and made up. And it's something that I heard the brother Reggie say. Brother Reggie pointed out that, you know how everybody like to say Hotep. I say it all the time. We use it in a slang form today, which could actually mean various things. But Reggie pointed out that one of the earliest uses for the words Hotep was a phrase that you see in the literature known as the Hotep di Norsut. And that is the offering that the king gives. And Reggie pointed out something that I know Shakka is alluding to, that in the earliest days of ancient Egypt, the only person that could give you an afterlife or that could grant you access into the afterlife was the king. It was the Pharaoh, it was the Nisut. So the Hotep di Norsut, the offering that the king gives, was access to the afterlife, to eternal life. Remember, in ancient Egypt, the Pharaoh was the representative of the Neteru, was the representative of God on earth, which is why every Pharaoh had a Heru name. Remember, Heru is the rightful ruler of ancient Egypt. In the mythology, they say that one of the earliest kings of ancient Egypt was Asar. Okay, now Asar was murdered by his brother Set, and Set assumed kingship, rulership. He became the Nisut Bidi. But he wasn't the official ruler of ancient Kemet because he killed Asar to get the throne. And so what had to happen? Asar's son, Heru, that some people call Horus, when he grew up, he challenged his uncle Set for the throne. And they had a battle that lasted many days. And at the end of it, the Ani, the council of the Neteru, the council of the gods, they determined that Heru was the rightful ruler of Kemet. Now, before they did that, what the Neteru had decided is they divided Upper and Lower Egypt between Heru and Set. And Set ruled one portion of Egypt, and Horus, he ruled the other portion. But then they came back and they was like, well, you know what? That's not really fair either. Heru should be the ruler over all. So Heru was the ruler over all of Egypt. He was the one that was supposed to have the kingship. So every pharaoh that you see after that, they have a Heru name. Basically saying that they sit in the seat of Heru. They have the right to rule Egypt because they sit in the seat of Heru, who sat in the seat of his father Asar. Okay? And so it was the king who had the ultimate power to grant somebody access to the afterlife. Now you have to think about something. If that's the foundation of how you get into the afterlife, everything else is a manipulation and a twisting of that. Okay? There came a time when the priest in ancient Egypt began to usurp authority over the king, meaning that the priest, through rituals and rites and amulets, inserting spells and chapters in things like the Book of the Dead or the Book of Gates, and the knowing of certain names of the Neteru, that is what could get an individual access into the afterlife. Okay? And it was a way to usurp the authority of the king, the pharaoh, then the suit, to give an individual access to the afterlife. You no longer had to go directly to the king. You could go through this priest or this priesthood, right? And you could recite certain spells. Certain spells could be recited over you in a funerary sense, and you could gain access into the afterlife. Even when you think about it, the ruler over the afterlife is a Asar. Okay, Asar is the one that was chosen to rule after Asar was Heru. Every pharaoh is Heru, a representation of Heru. So even when you talk about Asar ruling in the afterlife, when the pharaoh died, right? When the pharaoh died, he was no longer Heru, because Heru represented the kingship in this physical. So when the king died, the king became one with Asar, meaning the king also became ruler in the afterlife. You know, that's why you have, you can look at the pyramid text of Unas, the pharaoh Unas. They describe how when the king dies, he becomes one with Asar. He becomes Asar in the same manner as he was Heru on earth. He sat in the seat of Heru on earth, Horus on earth. Okay, not necessarily he was Heru, but he was the direct manifestation and representation of Heru. So in the afterlife, he is not Asar, because Asar is Asar. He is the divine manifestation and representation of Asar. So in the afterlife. So if Jabari and Shakka debate, Jabari's going to really have a problem. Okay, he's going to have a problem, a major problem. Because what he is going to try to highlight is the religious practices of the Egyptians. Now, the Egyptians, the Kemetic, they had a lot of religious practices. But it appears that those religious practices are made up, for one. But they are codifications of the king's rule. You will notice a lot of people like to talk about, the 42 laws of Mayat, the 42 laws of Mayat. An individual would have to be able to, after they die, in order to gain access to the afterlife and to show that their heart was lighter than a feather, they would have to be able to say or recite the 42 negative confessions, the 42 admonitions of Mayat. I have not stolen offerings from the guard. I have not lain with man like man lays with woman. I have not lied. I have not cheated. I have not committed murder. But did you know that in different Pert M. rules in different books of the dead written for different people at different time periods, that 42 negative confessions of Mayat was different? Right? Because ultimately, the king who sat in the seat of Heru, who was the God on earth, he dictated the laws. So, Mayat could change, the laws could change based on what the king said was law. Think about it. In pretty much any society that has a king as a ruler, what the king says is law. Who the king says can live, can live. Who the king says can die is die. What the king says is illegal is illegal. What the king says is legal is legal. And so you see these things were codified during the reigns of certain pharaohs. Now, certain pharaohs who ruled after another pharaoh, they may have kept a lot of certain things the same. So you may see a continuity of thought. But that doesn't mean that continuity of thought superseded the king's right. It's just like how you see in the 18th dynasty when Akhenaten, who was born Amenhotep IV, he totally changed everything from the worship of Amun-Ra to the worship of the Aten. That was his prerogative as a pharaoh. And the pharaohs that came after him, Tutankhamun, his name was Tutankhaten before that. He changed it back to Amen because he was going back to the reverence of Amen-Ra and giving the power back to the Amen-Ra priesthood. He changed it from Aten worship back to Amen-Ra worship. You know, how was he able to do that? How was Akhenaten able to change the religion of Kemet? Because it was a pharaoh. It was his prerogative. And how was his son, Tutankhamen, who was born Tutankhaten, how was he able to change it back? Because it was the pharaoh. It was the pharaoh's prerogative. And so you see a lot of times when you look into ancient Egypt, the high deity at any given time is the high deity because the pharaoh considers that deity the high deity. But that pharaoh ultimately is a direct manifestation of that deity on earth. So it's a civil war going on in the Kemetic community. I want to see how this thing play out. Shakka dropping bombs. He let loose, man. He let loose on Jabari, man. He let loose on Jabari. And I want to see how Jabari come back. He hasn't come back yet. But we're going to be taking a look at it. But yeah, man, it's a civil war going on in the Kemetic community. I'm Ampu, you feel me? I got an affinity with ancient Egypt. But if you look on my page, and it's crazy. I just did a video where I was talking about common lies told about ancient Egypt. This is before Shakka came out. Common lies told about ancient Egypt. Lie number one that I wanted to deal with was that there was only one religion in ancient Egypt. That's foolishness. That's foolishness. If anybody tell you that there was one religion that everybody followed, regardless who they were, what time period they lived in, they lying, bro. They just lying. They're just lying. Individuals had the ability to associate themselves with whatever narrative that they wanted. And the ultimate authority always came from the king, that the king was usurped by the priesthood. And you see that other cultures, when they got that model, they used that model in their own cultures. I'm not going into that, more on that later. But this is definitely interesting. This is definitely interesting. Y'all keep y'all eyes on it. Y'all go watch that video on Sonetta. It's two of them. Shakka Amos, man. Shakka Amos. Man, going in, man. Going in. I want to see how this thing play out because there's a lot of good information coming out. So this your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka the Chosen Few, aka the Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm world, I'm the real bookworm. And as always, may your name live on forever and may your memory never die. Civil War in the Conscious Community Hotel.